Did you know that you can access tax-free money by holding an investment property? In this video, I want to share with you exactly how this all works when you're taking out equity from one property to either use for yourself or to go and invest and build a real estate portfolio. If you're interested in what my thoughts are, then definitely keep watching. Hey guys, my name's Ravi and welcome back to Personal Finance with Ravi Sharma. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button because I talk about real estate, cryptocurrency, and financial freedom. Now, using equity, we've always heard about this, right? There's people online saying, oh, there's no deposit. You require no deposit to purchase your next investment property. This is how you do it. Or, hey, there's a way that you can use this equity, which would be tax-free money, to do whatever you like with it. Well, I'm gonna break it down in simple steps as to how it works, when you want to use it, and how you can use it to build an investment portfolio. So sit back, choose your beverage of choice, and let's continue. Now, the first thing we need to understand is what is equity and how it's calculated. Equity is just the difference between the home value minus your liability, which is the loan. It's very similar to calculating your net worth. When you look at your top number, it's basically what your assets are all worth, minus whatever your liabilities are, and that is the portion that is your net worth. It's the exact same thing when it comes to an investment property. The only difference I would say is that in order for you to find exactly what the market value is, it'll be very different to what an agent will tell you over the phone versus what a bank can give you. Now, believe it or not, every bank is different in how they assess one individual property's value. So I've heard in situations where you could go to one bank and they may give you a valuation on your property of 600K, but I could go to a different bank on the same day and get a valuation of $680,000. This is where the importance of having a mortgage broker really comes into effect. Because imagine you go to your local bank branch and you say, okay, well, I bank with you guys and this is how much my property is worth. Cool, that's all I have as an option. Thank you very much. Versus when you go to a broker, they can go and apply for multiple banks with multiple valuations. And so what happens is you get 3 or 4 different choices and you can then assess what is the next best move for yourself. So if you're interested in getting help with a mortgage broker, definitely email me. I'll leave my email in the description box below. Now that we know what equity is, it's more about how do we access it and when can we access it. So let's use an example and then from there we can branch out. Let's assume you buy a property for $500,000. You decide to put a 10% deposit down, which would be $50,000, and that means your loan amount is $450,000. In most cases, banks will allow you to borrow up to 90% of the entire value. So in this case, 90% of $500,000 is $450,000, and that would mean you could borrow no more after that. And in this case, your loan to value ratio is 90%. Now, although at this point, $50,000 being cash has been put into it, it is technically equity, but you can't touch it. So usable equity is different. It's essentially figuring out what 90% of the equity is. That is most likely what your usable equity actually is, what you can access. Let's break it down with this example. So let's assume that 500K property has now done really well and gone up by 10%. You bought in the right location at the right time. The property is now worth $550,000. Your debt, however, remains the same because you may have decided to go interest only. So now the property value is $550,000, the debt that you have is $450,000, and that means your equity is $100,000. But not all of it is usable. If you're to divide this number, what you'll find is that 450,000 divided by 550 equals 81%. That means your loan to value ratio has gone from 90% to 81%. Now, as I mentioned before, you can access up to 90% at most banks. So you could go and say to the bank, hi, I would like to borrow some equity. And if you have the borrowing capacity, you'll be able to go and borrow that extra bit there. So the best way to figure this out is with a formula. Now, yes, I didn't enjoy math formulas back when it was Pythagoras theorem and pi and this and sin and cos. I'm not sure what I'm talking about right now, but I didn't enjoy that, but I definitely enjoy this. And I have a feeling you will too. So what you want to do is you want to get the value, multiply that by 90% minus the loan value. Okay, so if that didn't make sense, rewind and go back to it. In this example, the value is $550,000. Multiply that by 90% equals $495,000, and now you would minus your existing loan, which is $450,000. That means you have $45,000 usable equity. That means you can go in, pending your borrowing capacity, you can access that money and then use it as a deposit for your next property, or you can go and use it for a renovation. Now, what's crazy is it's actually tax-free, right? Now, yes, I know some people will jump in the comments and say, oh, but I still have to pay interest on that and whatnot. But it depends what you're doing with that money. If you take out $45,000 and you decide to blow it in Europe, well, okay, that's a pretty silly decision. But if that $45,000 that I'm paying maybe 6.5%, 7% on, I can use that and use it as a deposit to purchase my next property is going to grow by a lot more than me having to pay 7% on such a low principal. So you need to strategize how this actually makes sense for you, and you can't just say, I've got equity, I'm going to use it, and I'm going to use it for dumb shit. You use it for dumb shit, you get dumb results, okay? Now, although $45,000 doesn't sound like life-changing money, it really does when you have an investment portfolio. So imagine going out there and saying, okay, I've got enough of a deposit to purchase 2 properties, and now you've got $1 million worth of real estate. How long do you think it would take for you to now save up to buy another $1 million worth of real estate? Well, if that existing $1 million worth of real estate is experiencing compounding growth, you might find your way to purchasing more investment properties, and now you suddenly have a portfolio worth maybe $2 million. I've got a video that has a step-by-step guide on how you can actually retire filthy rich with just 2 properties. Definitely go check it out. I use a whiteboard in that video where you can go through, save it, even take screenshots if you like, just so you've got that plan. But if you have an investment portfolio of $2 million and it goes up by 10%, that's $200,000 of compounding growth. And the year after that, it'll grow even more than that if you have 10% worth of growth or more. Now, what's crazy is when you put it into context, that if I could only borrow 90% of that amount and it works out to be accessing usable equity of $180,000, do you know how long it would take for you to save $180,000? That would be the equivalent of probably making an income of like $350,000 to $400,000 every year. This is why the rich get richer, because of the system and the rules of the game. I didn't make up the rules were here long before I was born, and in fact the rules have actually gone in the favor of stopping the rich from getting richer, with APRA coming in and implementing all these changes. If those changes weren't around, affordability would be a bigger concern now than ever before. I know it's super difficult to get ahead, but this is one of those strategies that the rich people are using, and they're using effectively. If you can get your head around knowing how an investment portfolio is actually very beneficial to you to growing wealth, then you will go and outperform 99% of investors out there. If you need help in finding the right properties and knowing how to execute this, then definitely go and check out the website. I'm going to leave a link in the description below for Search Property, our buyer's agency. We've helped more than 400 clients go and purchase their investment properties, whether it's their first property or whether it's their 7th. We're so excited to bring you so much value, but also at speed. And that is the key. Speed is the key in this market right now. So if you're interested in getting help, please do reach out. If you're interested in more videos like this, subscribe if you haven't already, like the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks, guys.